So what did it look for the two of you to wake up and start working your way out of the nice guy syndrome?
For me, it was critical mass. What I mean by that is the term we throw around, but that Schnarch uses as well. It's just like the pain in my life of being a nice guy threw me into a situation that I just had to change. Like I said, it was like so painful to read the book, but the pain of not reading it and doing something about it was greater. And I think that a lot of men on this journey who suffer from nice guy syndrome do wait till that kind of last minute where they hit a wall or they hit a low point and they finally say, okay, I got to get over the stigma I have around personal development and do something in order to save my relationship or, you know, get unstuck. So that was it for me.
I mean, the process, how this all started, I've got another group of men that I opened up with, and we got vulnerable and started sharing pre Diamond Dogs, and we did a book club. We read the book together, and then we got together and discussed it. We did, I think he calls them breaking free exercises. Is that what he calls them in the book? Um, those were really helpful to actually force yourself to sit down and do those exercises. I think a lot of guys probably want to just listen through it and get to the end and think, okay, all my problems are solved. I listened to the book. I'm no longer a nice guy. But I don't think it works that way. I think you really have to put in the effort and do the work. And it was helpful for me to have that group of guys holding me accountable to some extent and doing the work together. That was really helpful.
Was there a breaking free exercise that you did that you remember being particularly impactful?
I can remember in some of our book clubs as we would discuss our answers to the breaking free, like again, seeing how similar we all were was so helpful. Like, oh man, we are all in the same boat and we didn't even know it. It's like looking in a mirror here as you tell me, the answers and your struggles. And so, but yeah, just the unity, the camaraderie, I guess, of doing that together is what sticks out in my mind.
One of the first breaking free exercises is finding a group of men
Yeah.
that you can talk to. And Mike, you just like, that's exactly what you were already doing.
Yeah.
For me, like, fortunately, I'd already taken, the Jennifer Fitness and Vice course and got invited to this Facebook group and then, talked to a couple of the guys in that group and now I'm part of the Diamond Dogs, which the Diamond Dog group alone has been so powerful. It's like an honor to be part of the group because it's led to so many other things to help me break free of nice guy syndrome. For example, Mike supports this men's retreat that happens 2 or 3 times a year. Shout out, where's Heart? And I went to that and it was so impactful just to go to that, be around other men who are in the arena doing the work, who care, who can, validate my masculinity and say, "Heck, what you're going through is absolute, like totally normal. And it's something I've gone through myself and it's okay. You're going to get through this."
Yeah, one of the things that you read off that is a symptom of a nice guy is they're isolated.
Yeah.
They're isolated, especially from other men. So,
Mhm.
and I think that that can reflect in different ways. I think sometimes an isolated man has no friends, but I think oftentimes the way it manifests itself is you do have collegial friends, you have acquaintances, you have people that you can talk to about sport.
Superficial. Yeah.
Yeah, you can talk about sports, you can talk about the neighborhood gossip, you can talk about superficial work stuff, but you can't open up and talk about, hey, I haven't had sex with my wife in 6 months and I don't know what to do. Or we had a blow up fight 2 weeks ago and she's not talking to me and I don't know if this is the end of our relationship or not. Or my dad never hugged me and I don't know how to express affection or my feelings and it's really causing problems in my relationship. These are things that people struggle with and they're carrying it around and they don't have anybody to share with. So Mike, you lead men's groups. Like you you help facilitate some of these retreats. Can you share from your experience why it's so important for men to be able to open up and have genuine relationships and be able to talk about this stuff with other men? Why is that important? And also, just to throw a side question, why can't they just do this work with their wife or women?
Good questions. Yeah, I think there's just something about masculinity that bestows masculinity. And I mean, talks about it in the book how, life has evolved over the past 50, 100 years, where instead of men bestowing masculinity to their sons, um, it's become more of a kind of a feminine driven way to raise men where boys are raised by their mothers and then they go to school and their teachers are female, and probably just an absence of good male role models. And then the male role models we have aren't always that great. I mean, I know my dad, he was cold and distant. um I can count on one hand how many times he's told me he loves me in my life. um I didn't have that gift of seeing what a real man looked like. To me, a real man just kept his head down and worked hard and didn't show emotion and was isolated. And so to get together with other men and start to open up and to share our fears, our concerns, our worries, I mean, it never ceases to surprise me that everyone just says, "Oh wow, your story is my story." Like that just happens over and over and over again. Like there's so many similarities in how we're feeling on the inside, but we don't talk about it and we don't express it. So there's just something about that brotherhood. It's like our souls are just calling out for it, just craving. And our society doesn't do a good job of kind of normalizing that or kind of making it safe to do, like,
Yeah.
um, so these men's groups where we were just able to start opening up and getting real and getting vulnerable just have been life changing for me and so many other guys I know.
And why can't men just do that with their wives? Like, if the vulnerability and opening up thing is what's so healing, why can't I just open up to my wife and be vulnerable with her and get the same result? Because I honestly don't believe you can get the same result in most cases.
Yeah, that's the tricky question to answer. I can share what's true for me is nice guys have created a lot of damage in their relationships because of the dishonesty. And wives don't know, like, they're not in a place to listen, and often don't want to play role of being a therapist for their husbands. They're trying to work on themselves. They're just not, it's just not, you don't want to go to your wife to
Yeah.
validate your masculinity, you know?
Yeah. I think that's a good point just at the very end. If your wife is the one validating your masculinity, then you're putting her in a really uncomfortable position to be, once again, it's almost like you're creating that same dynamic of you need her to give you the validation. You need her to give you the approval. She needs to act as kind of like the
Gatekeeper, whether you feel good.
gatekeeper. This is the word I was looking for. Yes.
And they don't want to be on that pedestal. I don't honestly believe that. And in my own personal experience, after living with a nice guy for many years, it's really easy to sniff out. Like, I think women are really good at sniffing that out in men.
Yeah.
And so it's better to start alone and in a men's group.
What do you say to men who are listening to us talk about a men's group and their immediate reaction is to tense up, to be like, there's no way I could do that. Like, that sounds really silly, or it sounds woo woo, or it sounds gay, or whatever label they want to put on it. What do you say to that man who's listening right now going, there's no way I could sit in a room full of other men or on a Zoom call full of other men and open up and share my feelings? What?
I can relate to those feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah, what would you say? I'd just say try something different. If what you're doing is not working, try something different. There's a lot of men who can kind of witness to the power of finding good men to associate with. It really is life changing for so many people.
Stop trying to be a hero. You don't have to be like, we think we've glorified this idea that we have to figure out our lives on our own as men, and not be vulnerable and not have emotions and feelings. I think it's a fool's errand. I do, to try to be some sort of hero, some sort of like, I don't know, emotionless warrior that has to overcome the world on your own. I think our egos can get the best of us. And so, let it
I would
go.
also, I would
Go
also
ahead.
say, it's important to surround yourself with the right kind of men, because you can find toxic groups of men who will validate you and hear you complain and become kind of like an echo chamber. You said at the beginning, Nate, that in the Diamond Dogs we kind of call each other out, and I often say we're trying to call each other forward, trying to call each other to become our best selves. And sometimes that does look like, calling out and pointing out our flaws in how we're thinking or how we're seeing things, our skewed perceptions. But I love that the Diamond Dogs is not just an echo chamber to stroke each other's egos and validate and bash on our wives and say, yeah, you're right, she's a terrible person and you're great and you deserve better. Like it doesn't really get like that. It's more like, trying to help us see our shadows and see the parts of us that that we don't see clearly and we're self-deceived about. I think that's important, who you hang out with.
Yes. So it's not just hanging out with men that's important. It's hanging out with the right men with the right intentions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
I agree. Did you enjoy this clip? If so, you can check out the entire conversation right here. Or if you want some more tools and resources to help you overcome nice guy syndrome, check down in the description. I've left some really great resources for you there. And if you learned something valuable, I hope I was able to earn your subscription today.